That's a very short trailer. I was expecting the longer one. So, warm welcome to everybody. My name is Sebastian Sorg, and I'm very happy to moderate this industry session today. Innovating documentary filmmaking, AI-powered tools and techniques. This session is a cooperation with Documentary Campus and sponsored by Bayerischer Rundfunk. I'm thrilled for our guests. We have the opening keynote speaker, Damsbo from Kaspar AI, Copenhagen. He will be the first of our speakers. We have Albert, and again Albert, I'm so sorry, my name blindness comes back, Bozesan from Storybook Studios, and of course Simon von der Au. Here, out of the building actually, but the next building now, the CreatiF, how do you call it? CreatiF-Center. CreatiF-Center. Yes. Okay, so we will have short case studies with all of them, one after the other. And then after the case study, you always have the possibility to directly ask questions, give feedback. And after the 3 case studies, we'll have a moderated discussion discussing the topic. And I would say we right away start. Warm applause for Damsbo.
I think you did really well with the pronunciation of my name.
Thanks.
Mess. It's yeah. Not everyone does it. It's a silent D. You don't say
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did really good.
It's my teeth. It's a problem, but.
So I have a little thing that I would show you, and hi again, everyone. For those that maybe saw the opening keynote yesterday, sorry that you have to look at me twice. Not sorry. Just waiting for my presentation. What I can say while I wait is that some of you might notice or might remember the name of the AI that was making the feature film that I presented yesterday. That was Kaspar. And funnily enough, Kaspar is also the name of the startup that I've been building on the side of the film, funded through the film development. Because we early on, when we were creating a feature film with all these AI tools at hand, realized that we were not just building tools for ourselves, we were building tools for the industry. And so we decided to make a company that potentially could help filmmakers around the world. And now I'm going to present you what that is. So Kaspar looked specifically at editing, the difficult act of sitting and shifting through tons of hours of footage and trying to find just that shot you're looking for. This was what it looked like in the old days, but it still is a tedious task. The evolution of AI is sort of upon us, right? And now we have generated models that can produce the word, they can produce the image, and they can even produce the moving image. But there is sort of a next stage of language, which is the language of cinema, to understand montage. What does it mean when the man sees a bowl versus he sees a woman? The man is either hungry or horny. Right? I hear no reactions. Or he's something else, there's a subtext here. This is my point, right? And of course, the problem of shooting ratios is really interesting because we see more and more digital cameras, we see more and more footage being created. And back when Psycho was made, you had 3 hours of footage that became 1 hour final film. Now you have 300, 400, 500 to 1 in shooting ratios. So there's a lot of data that you have to work through. So that's why we made K1, and now I'll show you a video that we just finished that will demo what K1 is.
Have you ever wished you had the abilities of a supercomputer?
Bring in the LED.
When you're editing a film?
Lock it down.
Let's say you're editing a big Hollywood picture and you're on a tight deadline. Let me introduce you to Kaspar's K1, the AI assistant editor.
RoboCop.
I'm Damsbo and I'm the CEO of Kaspar. And here's how K1 can help you be a freaking machine. All searches performed in this video have not been manipulated and are at real-time speed. In the legendary film RoboCop, you have about 1,500 shots that you have to edit as fast as possible. To use K1 for your shots, you just need to highlight all of them in your project and press Analyze. On average, Kaspar takes the same time to analyze the shots as it takes you to watch them. Once the shots are analyzed, we can start to explore Kaspar's search feature. In case you don't remember, RoboCop is set in a near-future Detroit that is filled with crime. Let's search for that, and let's ask K1 for the 5 clips that best match our search. Kaspar has now created a timeline with the 5 clips that match our query. Now let's try something else. The reason why society is so violent is due to the media that is turning people stupid.
Hey, can I have you both?
We've had our shots.
I'd buy that for a point.
There's specifically this one TV show that just repeats the same line over and over. I'd buy that for $1. I want to find all the shots where this line is heard, and I want to grab the 3 best results. To do so, I switch to transcript search and move the slider.
I'd buy that for $1.
I'd buy that for $1.
I'd buy that for $1.
Another cool feature with K1 is the audio search. It can find anything that's an audio cue, like bang. The society in Detroit is violent due to corrupt executives conspiring in boardrooms.
We need a 24-hour-a-day police officer. A cop who doesn't need to eat.
To fight violence, they build a machine that makes matters even worse. But not all good in the city is lost, thanks to our hero, a policeman named Murphy.
Murphy, transferring in from Metro South.
I think I remember a scene where Murphy drives a car. Let's find it. Oh, no. The search engine found the villain instead of the hero. Let's try to be more specific.
Central, this is 154. We are in pursuit of 211 suspect. Request backup.
Roger.
Yes, exactly. This is what I was looking for. For Murphy to fight the evil robot, he has to be turned into a crime-fighting police robot. Half human, half machine.
You are under arrest. You are under arrest.
Will RoboCop be able to save the day? With K1, it's like having an AI extension of yourself. Its powerful grasp of your footage will speed up any editing process.
What are your prime directives?
Serve the public trust. Protect the innocent.
So the question is, do you want to stay just a human? Or get K1 and level up to something more?
You're gonna be a bad motherfucker.
So what do you think? Do you want to stay human? Yeah, yes, please. I would like to stay human. So this is K1 out now. It's for free for now, and you can download it today for Premiere Pro. But I want to just direct your attention to an alpha feature that we're also making, which is coming soon, called RoboCut. Haha. Funnily enough. You see there's a thing going on. Yeah, there's a thing. So the thing about RoboCut is that because we now can find anything in your footage at super high speeds, we can actually let you put in much longer descriptions of scenes. This could even be a screenplay, like a shooting draft. In this case, in this beta feature, we just wrote quickly a trailer or like a little recap of things we wanted to see from the film. Police robot entering a room. He says you're under arrest. Criminals start shooting at him, he shoots back, criminals get in a car, drive away, etc., etc. So this is what the feature looks like when you then put it into action. This is again in real-time speed.
You are under arrest.
Come on, man, let's smoke him!
Very simple, but you get the picture. So, go ahead and download and you can try it today. Thank you.
Thank you much for the short presentation. I have no mic. There's a mic. Thank you very much. So, first feedback, first questions out of the audience, or might one of you also already have a question? Here.
Yes.
Okay. Microphone to Philip.
A very simple question. Is it also available for Avid?
It will be. We just
When?
started on
Like
Premiere.
next week?
No. No. We're expecting it later this year. But for now,
No, that's a shame.
for now, we're starting with Premiere. Premiere, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to know, I'm not sure if I got it right, so how does the AI gets the whole material? So I doubt it takes the time like I would watching it, and if I have to highlight everything which is in it, well, it takes the same time than I would do it. I'm not sure.
So this is a good question. So your footage is always locally, something you have on your machine or a hard drive. We don't upload anything. Everything happens local. You actually pull the Kaspar machine learning models to your computer. So that's just so you know, there's nothing being uploaded anywhere. When we say analyze, it just means that if you have a bin in your Premiere project with all the files, you just highlight that bin and say analyze. You don't. You can do it. You can also select individual clips you want analyzed, but yeah, you want everything analyzed, obviously. So you just highlight that bin, say analyze, and it takes 1-to-1 speed. Sometimes it takes faster if you have a faster computer, but around 1-to-1 to the time of the footage.
Big fan of local processing, so
Yes.
I'm always looking for that. But I mean, I use AI as well. What's like the minimum power you need in your machine? Like, is a MacBook enough, or do you need some NVIDIA cards?
For now, we actually had to target Mac M1, M2, and M3 only, 16 gigabyte RAM minimum, because it's we're running several visual models and audio models, so it's pretty heavy on your machine.
Well, but M1, I mean, I have one right here, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
Getting into technical stuff, the film I'm shooting, I'm of course shooting with several cameras, right? So I have those multi-camera clips.
It can do that.
And I have an amount of something like it will be, in real-time shooting, it will be like 100 hours in order to make a 3-hour film or 2-hour film.
Mm-hmm.
And those 100 hours are like 4 or 5 or 6 cameras. It can do that?
Yeah, does that mean you have 600 hours actually?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it can do that. It'll just take you 600 hours to analyze.
Yeah, that's a good vacation.
Yeah, just do it while you're on break, Easter
All right,
break.
good.
Hello, Mats. You're
Where? Over there, sorry.
Thanks for the presentation. I noticed when you were looking for things, you'd what was the search for visual features.
Yes.
How are these visual features defined?
Yeah.
Who defines them?
Yes.
Where do they come from? How do I
love
know
it.
that this person in blue is a policeman? How does
It's a great question. So this is I think the magic of this tool is that it's all based on language models, which means when we analyze, we're actually not tagging anything per se. You cannot find a specific tag. What you find is an embedded vector in latent space. That means that it's a description that a language model does of the footage. That description can then be found either abstractly or very concretely. If I say a policeman in a car, I'll find specifically that. But I could also say a man in a car who's yelling and has a gun, and it would also find that shot. You know what I mean? So it's much more of a fuzzy logic now that you can apply. You can even say people having fun, and it will come up with what it thinks are the best suggestions for people having fun. It's all in a much more, it's in a latent space, so to speak. So there's no, Yeah, does that make sense? It's not a direct tagged metadata.
Okay, yeah, next question. So Matt, you will see later on in my talk why I ask this question now, but for me, everything is integrated and everything is talking together. And for me, it's not the worst if everything is in the cloud. So do you also think about cloud workflows where you put in your data directly from the camera, let it run through K1, everything is analyzed. I can, for example, also integrate everything from continuity management, from my log kits, all the notes that are taken on set or on location, yes. Can bring everything together, make it searchable, and use it. Is this something you're heading to?
Yeah, that's the next step for us. So we're actually working with a content management system called DryLab, which is a Norwegian-based CMS system for film and TV. And with them, we're basically putting our engine into their server structure. So anything that comes through dailies goes through our analysis overnight and is then automatically pulled through to the Premiere project you're working on. So it's definitely in our pipeline. We just wanted to first and foremost be something you could use out of the box locally, and also as a startup, we don't have to think about cloud costs, right? We can give you this service very cheap because you're using your own computer.
Yes, awesome. Thank you.
Another technical question: which languages does the system understand?
Right now, it understands sort of the main languages, like I want to say German, Spanish, English, and those languages. But that's because we're running a smaller Whisper model because we wanted to keep it lightweight, but we want to optimize that future for multilingual. So that's like just the next step for us.
Planning any extension for Arab and African languages?
No, but I think I would actually suggest you to use Adobe Premiere's own transcription service because there you get actually the text-based editing that you might have seen earlier in the day, where it's a lot more precise on what's being said, where ours is a little bit more for finding abstract things that they're talking about, or maybe sound cues. It's a little bit more fun to use our tool for sound cues than direct line finding. I would just say, to be honest.
So your tool will work for the optical and acoustical input?
Like our main focus is the visual, right? Like we want you to be able to look through your material and find things that you remember visually.
How does it react to blurry images?
A little bit more blurry, but you can find blurry. You can search for blurry and it'll find that.
Okay, thank you. Last question before we are switching to Albert comes from my part. So, as it's a startup, how did you finance the development of these two tools, and what's the future of it? What's the business case that comes across when you're working with this? Because now for pre-alpha or alpha version, it's for free.
Yeah.
And of course, you need people that use it in order to make it better.
Yeah.
But how does it work economically?
First question, how do we fund it? It was partially some public grants that you can get in Denmark for innovation. And then it was mostly actually the film funding for the feature film that I presented yesterday that was then funneled into the development. So we kind of dog food our own development through the film.
Did I understand right that you actually developed it because you needed it out of the doing, or?
Yeah,
you were bored by your own film production.
We were making a documentary, right, with a lot of footage. I think we ended up having over 100 hours, and we were so frustrated by not being able to use these models in a way to find stuff. Like, why can't we use these models ourselves? So yeah, that's how it started. Business model wise, currently we haven't set the final price point, but we think it'll be around $8 to $9 a month for credits that will be refreshed, and the credits will be like 10 hours of analytics. So basically, anyone who's doing sort of monthly churning through data, for them 10 hours is fine, right? But you can also select a credit system where it's just, I want this one project, I want to buy 100 hours of credit. Let Kaspar analyze everything, but it'll be quite cheap per minute.
Oh, great! Thank you very much. Sure. And let's skip to Albert. Give a warm applause to Mats. Now, as we have a short technical break, I invite everybody who sits up there in the Alps down to us, because here this left part is so extremely empty that it makes us depressed. I see Monica. Monica, you can also sit down here. Anybody who likes to switch to the seat, to be more involved into the future of us? Or more interested to become a robot? Well, this one is really one of the worst places. You're sitting in front of that. Okay, Albert, you're set already?
I think so, if my presentation works.
Okay, everybody stand still, freeze. It's Albert.
So first of all, before I get in trouble with my boss, Danmark, I'm one of the first employees of Storybook Studios. I'm not the founder. So without him, it would have been very difficult to get this project off the ground. There we go. Okay. So I am actually not from the documentary circles at all. I am from fiction. So before I get into some examples of what I do, Pantaleon Films might say something to several of you. It's usually a fiction production company that made a couple movies that were very successful in Germany as well as internationally. And Storybook Studios, where I'm the creative director, is the sister company dedicated to using AI to improve filmmaking and hopefully get us in Germany a leg up to really compete on the international stage with lower budgets but the same teams and resources, ideally. So to start off in a fun way, some of you might remember this when Thomas Gottschalk in the very strange game show Wetten, dass mistook my boss Matthias with footballer Bastian Schweinsteiger and called him Matthias Schweinsteiger. And we immediately jumped into action and made this little video. Oop. Hold on, let me get the sound going. We did a tech demo, tech test, but it always has to be different, of course.
So viele unvergessliche Momente.
Das nennt man Hand.
They've got two players over Schweinsteiger!
Ich halte nicht mehr aus. Der Tag hat gar kein Ende. Es ist Viertel vor 9.
This is about becoming legends. Any questions?
No. Yes, many. Hundreds. Frohes Weihnachten! Frohes Weihnachten!
Right, so that was a little bit of fun with our team. When we are not currently faking reality, we produce fictional content, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of a showcase of what we can do currently with various tools that I will then get into in more detail. So here's our actual showcase. Look closely. Nothing you're about to see is real. At Storybook Studios, AI isn't just part of the story, it is the story. We're redefining what it means to be immersed, offering experiences so vivid, you'll question everything. Okay, so that's what we're up to. Pretty much everything you saw, well, no, everything you saw was at least like 95% AI with some traditional, After Effects and compositing added onto it. And now you might be wondering, why am I at a DOK.fest, right? Because I believe that fiction creators and documentarians have more in common than you think. Ideally, documentaries want to portray reality, but so do fiction creators. Just because Harry Potter isn't real doesn't mean he can look different in every single shot. The world in itself must still portray a fictional reality. So one of the big issues, if you yourself have used some of these image generators or even video generators with AI, is that you might get one really cool image, but the next one is going to look completely different, and you don't really know how to fix that, right? Especially with public tools that are available, like Midjourney and Firefly. They're very powerful if you're good at prompting and maybe making a pitch as a writer or something, but they're not really useful if you're a film director trying to achieve this either actual reality or depiction of a reality. Our fix for this is Stable Diffusion. We actually have an excellent professor here at HFF who also gets into it. But I just wanted to make everyone aware, in case you're, for example, trying to portray a historic event in a documentary or similar, that there are tools available locally on your computer, if you learn how to use them, that can get you that control that you're looking for. So Stable Diffusion, for example, enables you to use specific models, which other systems do not. So if you want to, for example, portray a very specific type of Roman armor, if you enter this into a Midjourney service, for example, you might get something that could work in Game of Thrones as armor, but you will not be able to portray an actual Roman armor. With something like low-ranking models, which we use a lot at Storybook, you can get quite close, because this is a custom-trained model on many, many photos of this Roman armor that you were trying to get. So that's one possibility to get control, is training your own models. This is possible on a decent gaming computer. You do not need a giant farm at OpenAI to get this level of detail. Another way of achieving control, something called ControlNet. You can enter an image, have outlines recognized in it, and create a different image from that. Another added element of control. Or something like this. You take a picture of yourself at the office, posing in a way that you want your character to pose, and very easily get an astronaut looking exactly how you want, and not just kind of randomly pulling the prompt gambling lever and hoping for the best. Another thing, if you're excellent at drawing like I am, you can just draw for the AI what you want to achieve, and it'll do this for you. Barely a difference, right? And if you really are a filmmaker with, a lot of knowledge in VFX maybe, and you're annoyed by all these AI systems that can't really give you what you want, you kind of can, actually. Because on the left, my colleague in Berlin did a traditional 3D animation, didn't bother rendering it, and just ran it through something called AnimateDiff. And, it's not Pixar, but in the couple seconds it took to create, it's quite impressive. Okay, I don't want to bore you with any more details, but that's just a little bit of an insight into what we do and how we're trying to actually keep the creative element and the control that we as filmmakers desire in the process of AI filmmaking, to not leave the entire field to the tech bros who think they can make better movies than we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Albert. So, 1 second, Albert. Just to understand, before we get feedback, because you were pointing out like your mission or like the starting point of this story, which will happen now. What's your background? Because I didn't introduce you quite well. What's your story?
Yeah, well, I originally just wanted to make movies and ended up making videos for a lot of companies, a lot of social media content for Hugendubel, Fritz Cola, just fun YouTube and Instagram stuff, basically. Then I got into fiction. I was a writer for a couple years. I wrote a bestseller for Audible and did some audio stuff for ProSieben as well. And then when, of course, as a writer, if any of you are here, you know how difficult it is to pitch new original concepts. And when AI came about, suddenly my pitch deck started looking a lot better, and I got really excited. And that's how I got into AI itself, began consulting Pantaflix, and then decided together with Danmark and my colleague Tobias Huber to start Storybook as a full spin-off company.
I think that's very important. Your background is really actually a screenwriter. You have a lot of experience from that part, and now I'm really curious for the first reactions and feedback also from you both, but who else would like to start? Questions, remarks, shocked because of the documentary audience, shocked with you? Here.
Yes.
Hi, thank you very much. I was really excited to see that you're also working with OpenPose. I was wondering if you also have something which focuses like very specifically more on the face, and which would also like help facilitate with creating masks or, you know, like more creative means of anonymization.
Mm-hmm. We're actually working on a project right now using deepfake technology to not fake a real person, but to disguise a real person with a fake face. It's quite difficult using the traditional deepfaking tools because those are reliant on thousands of photos of a real person. But we've actually used Stable Diffusion to first create somewhat similar faces and then train a model on those faces and then, you know, create a synthetic data set to make a new face. So we are doing that. It is possible. And in general, I mean, with ControlNet, of course, it's one way to get kind of a composition and a pose, right? But to create a consistent face, of course, you do need to... IP adapter ControlNet is another one that's quite decent at replicating the same face over multiple ways. I can talk endlessly about this. But does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, more questions, feedback? Yes, Simon?
I don't want to spoil too much for our discussion afterwards, but how do you get this deterministic thing going that you end up with the same results ever and ever again?
Well, a lot of it is feeding it reliable information, like consistent real-life information. So we generate very few shots without giving it some sort of footage we either have created in 3D software or photographed, actually filmed. A lot of custom models. I don't think the ones available online are the ones you should be using for professional filmmaking. You always almost have to create your own fine-tune. I mean, for ethical reasons too, you kind of don't want to take someone's style. And we're lucky that we have, you know, films that we've created or that we film on purpose to train models on top of the existing ones, of course. It's a ton of, you know, manual work and trying out different things. And unfortunately, the more control you have, the less cool the results look at first. Because Midjourney is excellent, right? You enter a text and it's like, wow, this looks like a movie. And with Stable Diffusion, you do need to plug in a lot of different things too. So, yeah.
More questions? Feedback? So what I'm extremely interested in is we all know Pantaflix, of course. And I understand out of your presentation what's possible, what you're working on, and what kind of quality is there. And now I also get a glimpse into the workflow, which is obviously there. And I wonder how, what's the business? How do you work already with this kind of AI-created IP content? And in the business relation to Pantaflix, what's the motivation for Pantaflix to have this part of the company? Is it kind of a playground part of a bigger company that wants to keep one footstep in this part of the development? Or so these are like two questions in one.
I mean, it's changing all the time. We've been around for pretty much a year now, and we've already gone through different types of business models already. Because, of course, my team wants to be useful immediately. We have the trust from Danmark to experiment, so he's not expecting, a instant business right now. But we have already been quite useful starting with pitch decks when images were already really good. But a lot of the footage you saw in the showcase was from actual mood trailers. Because that's really powerful, right? You don't have to cut video from existing projects anymore to pitch your project, because that's always a problem, right? You want to do a fantasy series, but people you're pitching it to recognize clips from Game of Thrones. That's no fun. And we've been able to create original footage, which gives us the added advantage of being able to publish these trailers if we want to as well. Long term, we'll, of course, be supporting the Pantaleon Films productions with visual effects, because that's one of the most obvious ways to monetize this as well. And then long term, we're actually working on a first original series right now where the pilot episode will be done, I think, in like 2-3 weeks for a children's TV series, because, animation is a little more lenient than photoreal faces. Yeah.
Great, that's what I assumed, that you, at the moment, you're really part of the concepting process. So if there's no, okay, we have a question. Who is the?
Hi, I have asked these questions in the sessions before. If you generate movies, pictures, whatever, and you slightly change it in the prompt or whatever, it often happens that the whole picture changes a lot. Do you have like generate but don't change, like structure, like color, like whatever, so that you can distinguish and go step by step and enhance it step by step?
I wish we did. So what we're doing for the kids show, for example, we developed all the individual characters and as a 3D model using AI tools as well, but then refeed those images into LoRa training, like the Roman armor basically, and then have different models for each character as well. So when we're generating a new image of that character, we need to give it that custom-made model in order for it to create a similar looking person. So there's methods, but they're more complicated, unfortunately, than the prompt.
Okay, all questions answered at this point. Then I would ask you for a warm applause, first of all, for Albert. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And then Simon, it's your stage.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Simon. I'm the head of the CreatiF-Center at the HFF, and we see us as the Innovation and Transfer Center here at the HFF. And don't talk much about myself because that would not be so interesting. Because then if I show you something about my work, I just show you columns of management stuff, but I show you a lot of things that my team is doing. So because that's quite more interesting. Just a few words about the project. It's a founded project by the government and partly by the state, and it's under the umbrella of the Innovative Hochschule. We are founded until 2027, and the project consists of 3 parts, and I'll briefly go through the parts, but before that I will introduce you our 2 amazing cooperation partners. On the one hand, it's the Hochschule für Musik und Theater, so our neighbor next door, and the Fraunhofer Institute in Erlangen, Fraunhofer Institute for Integrated Circuits. And the whole thing about our project is transferring knowledge between research institutions into the general public and also into the industry. So that's also why I'm standing here, providing information to you. So this is about our project. We have, as mentioned, 3 sub-projects. One with our HFF legacy project, where we really go into the HFF analog film archive, looking what treasures are down there, in which condition they are, trying to digitize them and also to restore them, so making them available for the public, and also trying to build up a mediatek to, let them shine again. The second project is for innovative tools and workflows, where we look into production processes, where we also look into the production processes here at the HFF, which are made for teaching and also for producing the films here that are made in the HFF, but also we're looking into the industry. How is the industry working, and how can we digitalize all the workflows? How can we integrate workflows? How can we work with cloud workflows and everything? We're looking into a new era of production. And the third project, and for today the most interesting one for you, is the Creative Innovation Lab, where we build up a living lab. So we are researching on real productions. So we are partnering up with our students, and we test new innovative techniques, new tools, new workflows, and evaluate them, how they work into in film production. We want to enabling the tomorrow's storytelling. So we will see how this works out, but I will go a little bit into our research, and especially focusing on AI. So I thought it might be a big cut. So between you're promoting products and we're showing more or less like a meta layer over that. But this is very similar. So let's dive into it. In our research, we are looking into various techniques. We are focusing on virtual production, also on artificial intelligence, and as well on volumetric videos. And at the beginning of our project, we started like roughly half a year ago. We thought these are separated areas of research, but now, a half year into the project, we see everything is intertwined. So these are research areas that are very, very near to each other, and they have big influence on each other. And I will show you later on some examples. But for today, it's about, artificial intelligence. We look on artificial intelligence for film production, and we have more or less three research parts we want to look into. We want to see how we can integrate AI into the creative process, but we also look how we can integrate AI into the post-production process. But most important is what are the ethical and legal implications for the whole industry. Luckily, we are teaming up with our cooperations partners at the Fraunhofer Institute in Erlangen, where we have two researchers, and they are currently working on transferring knowledge from the Fraunhofer to the HFF. So they are skimming through their facilities and looking where are AI tools implemented and how they could, build them for film production. And they collected a lot of examples for us where we could use AI in film production. And we have like 3D avatar animation. So I think the question was here before, so that we could mask persons, that we could give them an alternative face, so to hide if they want to stay anonymous. Then we have the real 3D animation of whole characters, like in the second example here with the more anime style thing, that we could recreate whole scenarios with actors and everything. Then we have multiple scenarios where we want to change the mood of the story, where we want to do day by night, for example. Deepfakes is a big thing. And then we go into the reconstruction area. I have some example here of the drill, but I will dive into that a little bit later. So not so much for that. And then one very, very big part for us is voice. Synthetic voice, and also lip syncing and everything that comes with this, language changing and so on. So there are a lot of application areas where we could use this, and somehow we are limited. 2027 the project is finished, so we have to focus. And what we're doing is two targets at the moment. It's avatar creation. We are starting with 2D avatars. We're using there some Fraunhofer technology, where they started with 2D image, extracting feature points and just translating the change of the feature points, and then generating the 3D image at the end. And we started here with just a short animation, but what they are focusing on is, for example, the face, so lip syncing, and then connecting this with the voice cloning. The second thing we're focusing on is reconstruction, and we are doing that because we also have the virtual production research, and for us it's quite interesting to generate the materials that we'll use, for example, in the Unreal Engine. And we could use real locations, and we go around them, scan these locations, and then we can use it afterwards for our backgrounds. And this is why we are looking into nerves or Gaussian splattings or things like that. And for us, really the key thing is the view dependency when you work with these AI tools. View dependency means that the model learns how reflections work. The model learns how light works on the reflections, and I'll give you some examples here. This is actually what the guys from Fraunhofer did. We have in the middle the ground truth, so that's the drill. With all the natural reflections the drill has, we have on your right side the photogrammetry project, and you can see, especially in the areas here, everything is there's no gloss or something like that. It's very homogeneous, and it's not shiny. But if you look at the nerve, then you can see that there are the reflections, and it comes quite near to the original. And they provided me a film. I think it's out of the Unity engine at the moment. And if you look especially at the shining, the materials, you see how the view dependency changes the color of every pixel, so to make it look very, very lively. Well, so as mentioned, for us, that's especially a tool to create backgrounds, and this is something where the guys at Fraunhofer had to chew on, because they were focusing on e-commerce, so they were focusing on objects, and we said, well, we have like a scene where you look out of the window, and at the end of the window we would like have a backyard, for example. So they had, okay, how do we do backyards? They tried a lot of different tools. At the moment, I think they tested over 20 tools, and here's one example from PostShot. And I'm not sure if you can see it very well, because it's the camera angles are gray. Here you see the camera shots that have been taken, many circles of camera shots, and this is the image that they reconstructed. So what does this mean? That means that you can go somewhere where you cannot shoot a film, or where you cannot, where you cannot film, but you can take photos there, and afterwards you go out, you create your scene, you could put your actors back into the scene because you're using virtual production or green screen or whatever works for you, and then you can recreate the story in the location. So if it's, I don't know, if it's a war zone or something like that, something where you couldn't spend a lot of time, but you can recreate the scene. This is, well, I'll take a short detour also into virtual production. For us, we are looking especially at two research points there. We're looking at technical research, so what are the technical constraints when using virtual productions, and we're focusing here on in-camera visual effects. And then we are also looking at the scenic research. We're looking what different kinds of shots are now possible. How could you use it? How can you integrate your backgrounds? How can you synchronize your real set with your background? And of course, we're doing teaching in this, and I brought some material from, I think the seminar was 2 weeks ago, what they did in virtual production. So there's no AI, but it looks quite well. So I'll just give you a sneak peek in virtual production at the HFF with the VFX students. So it was a technical seminar. They built up the virtual production environment from the scratch. And most studios are very, very big. We will get a bigger studio, but we started with this. We started with the big gaming monitor, track camera, lights, and Lego models. And it worked quite well for us. So I'm happy to discuss with you guys now. And if there are any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any direct question to Simon for what he just presented? Because it's tough, because you're more the question. Philip likes to ask something.
When you create animations, can you include the concept of volume and weight? Like when you have the dancing guy, right? I mean, it seems like his legs and his arms had no weight. There's two things that are unchangeable about a character, at least at the moment. That's volume and weight.
Yes. No.
Okay.
Simple question. Simple answer. No.
And I have one question for the last example that you showed us with a virtual production.
Yeah.
So did you work with in-camera effects, or what did you demonstrate? Just that you were working with the virtual studio in small or?
Yeah, it was just to show.
Because this is a big issue.
There's no
effects
AI involved at the moment.
Yeah.
But what we're really doing is, so we will get the LED stage volume. It's a little bit too high. We'll get about 10 square meters of LED, and we will be able to integrate this into our sets in the big film studio. And this is where, at the moment there's like a living room flat situation with a big window on one side, and we'll be able to extend the view out of this window. And this is why we said to our Fraunhofer guys, so if you're looking for a use case, then please provide us a backyard or a street or something like that, where we get a lot of this view parallaxes if we move the camera in the living room and looking out of the window. So we were there in contact with our camera department.
Yes.
This is
and it also gives a good example on how your research is applied and how there's communication between the roles. Okay, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. Do you have experience with dynamic Gaussian splatting in real time for virtual production?
Well, not yet. But we're definitely looking into that because, this is...
Yes.
At the moment, it's more or less the holy grail for us.
Yeah.
Because, we
for me too.
Yes. This and adaptive lighting. So this is the two things that bug us the most, because we really see a big potential in there. So if I can produce something like using a volumetric studio, something like that, using the Gaussian splattings, and at the end I can place my lights wherever I like in the game engine. And for us, it's what we really want to bring the students to play around with the real-time capabilities. So at the moment, it's more or less used as backplates in the most use cases where you see it, but actually things that happen in the front could have an effect on things that happens in the back. So if someone turns out the light in the real set, then also the lights in the back has to go out, but you can extend it. So if someone shoots on stage, then you could see the impacts on the walls and the back. So, and this is something we really want to play with, and so we really have to head into this direction as well.
And just a quick question, so the knowledge you create, how is that accessible for the industry?
Well, ask us.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes, no, because we are
Super.
we are a public research project, and everything goes to the public.
You have to publish.
So it's open
we
source.
We have to publish. Yes, it's open source.
It's better than open source, kind of.
It's even better.
It's even better.
Okay, so perfect in time. We switch on stage. So please, Albert and Mats, come up and let's talk about the limits and the possibilities. I'd like to explore that a little bit with you.
The panel was done.
The panel is already done at 3 o'clock?
I didn't know. I thought it was.
We just know that Sylvia Rote will start at 3:30.
Okay.
Is there an endpoint I didn't announce or didn't know about?
Do you want us in the panel?
Well, we'll talk for a couple of minutes. Yeah, we keep you here.
Do you have a mic?
You have to leave?
No. I was just...
That's okay. You were just... Okay, let's start with you, Mats. I really love the aspect that any of you have very particular background and bring characteristics. And the funny thing on Albert, which I also already focused out, is like you're a screenwriter. When I was reading about your work, I was like, okay, one of those techie guys. Will any screenwriter ever work with such kind of? I'm not sure. And you're also the one who's not deleting humans out of the process. It's not your goal. That's something you're pointing out directly. So please tell me, what, out of your view, what is the potential at the moment for the process? What is the limit and what are the possibilities in close, near future? Some kind of horoscope, the glass bubble. Crystal bulb is now talking to us.
I will speak specifically about editing, right? Because you can talk about the future, and AI content creation is huge and unclear. But specifically, I think for editing, it's so obvious to me that, as I also was mentioning in the talk, that there is a language of filmmaking, right? There are these rules. We learn them in film school. We understand that when you go into a scene, there's a certain establishing of the characters. There's a certain rules we have to abide by, And if you look through history of cinema, there'll be patterns that show how you best portray a film. And there are even going to be a lot of styles, of course, like, editing styles. And there's tons of theory on this, like how is the language of cinema. And I think, and to be honest, what I'm seeing from the content that's being produced now, video content, it's so media illiterate. It's like people are just pulling up phones and starting to shoot, and like they don't know that there are all this tradition, this whole language that you can learn, that you can pull from. So I really hope that using these tools and making them be trained on this can then actually help you to understand, oh wow, this works. There's a reason why this works and this doesn't work. And maybe I should be thinking more differently when I shoot something because I need to tell this story in this certain way. So hopefully the AI this is the optimistic side of the future, is that AI will open and enlighten us to something that is really difficult to master.
Yes, of course. Albert, do you have anything to add or to?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people seem to think that AI is just going to do everything by itself, but just the fact, like you say, you need the experience to even know what you're looking for. Even with Midjourney, a consumer tool, I need to know that 35 millimeter is going to improve my font, my prompt, but I'm never going to be able to enter that if I don't know what 35 millimeter even means. You kind of already need to understand even the basics of filmmaking to be able to tell the AI what you want. Another aspect of how AI might change filmmaking for the better is letting it prompt you. One of my favorite ways to use ChatGPT is to tell it, okay, here's this video project that I want. Can you ask me 10 questions that I need to answer for you so you can help me better? And suddenly I start understanding my own creative process much more effectively. Like, even if you've written tons of pitches, you do always tend to forget one or two perspectives that you could include in it. And that's how the AI can help me somehow be even more humanly creative than I would have been without it.
True.
Yeah. I talked with my team a little bit earlier about this, and we think it's an enabler. So you as a person, you as a storyteller, or if you're telling a story of somebody else, which might be the case in documentary filming, is you're enabled to do a lot of things that you couldn't do before. And also the second thing is that AI also might work as a medium. So I have to transfer something out of my head to you to understand my point of view, to understand my feelings. It's like a phantom sketch artist that has to create the imaginary picture of a person by the description of another person. And now I have two persons talking to each other, and one can use the power of AI. So there's not the AI we learned yesterday, so of one tool to create an image, to create a feeling, and to provide this to you. So this might, if you have a protagonist person that has experienced something and he wants to translate it to you, this is a tool they might use to give you the feeling, and you can translate it afterwards into your documentary or into your film. So it's a very powerful medium to translate ideas from one person to another.
Should we just maybe quickly also talk about the negative sides?
Yes.
So we're not like an evangelist choir.
There was one question in between, but let's start.
Just to mention one thing that I see as a huge issue is that when you look at the specifically generated, imagery that we see now, from the beginning of when generated images started, it already now has produced over 15 billion images, right? Which took humankind 100 years to create. And I think this is also something we have to think about, is that we're now creating a data pool which is going to be infected by AI imagery. So the big downside of all this content coming from AI is that it's infecting itself, like it's an incestuous pool. And we should now as storytellers be more considerate about what is our data pool, where are we pulling from, what are we, and be mindful of these kinds of new ways of using AI.
Anything to add? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A completely different aspect. AI not being able to make movies by itself and people thinking that are two very different things. And unfortunately, a lot of very wealthy investors in Hollywood seem to think the second thing. So we're seeing a lot of retracted investments into big studios, for example, because someone was shown Sora and didn't question how these videos came to be or what the ratio was that we discussed earlier. So I do think it's important to keep talks like this going of people who use AI, who come from the creative industries, saying, hey, this is the role of the human in this, and how it's going to change, sure, but how essential it is to filmmaking. So we don't, have to go through this slump of 10, 20 years of Hollywood not investing enough in human capital or using AI incorrectly before they realize that no one wants to see completely artificial films.
I also wondered if there's any kind of research going on in that particular dimension, because it's not user experience anymore. It's kind of the research between a man-machine. I mean, there's one university here in Würzburg who specified in it. But do you know more about this?
Well, so the first thing is, what you have to know is, if you ask a generative AI a question, you will always get an answer. It will always create you an answer. So this is one of the biggest problems. Even if it hasn't got the answer, it will create one. It's a very big problem, because we as a user, we put something in and we will get the right feedback, which is not the case anymore. So we will look at different things, and I know there's a lot of going on. And I also have a background in informatics, and what they are really looking deep to is how can you explain the reactions that an AI, so it kind of works like a black box. So you're giving something in. Using prompts is very cool, because then I have a little bit more control, and I can use my words to influence the outcome. But it's more or less like a black box. I don't know what the AI is taking as a reference or something like that. So there's a lot going on in the research area. And what we are focusing on, and I think it was also mentioned yesterday, is how can you tag AI-generated content, or how can you prove that your content is not affected by AI? And I think this is something, I could imagine a lot of people going back to shooting on 35 millimeters or on 70 millimeters to verify the authenticity of the material. Now they can also use like LED walls in the back, so there goes your authenticity. We will see how this is going too, but I think for us, it's as researchers, it's very important to figure out how can we prove this is original footage.
Any questions out of the audience? Contributions, ideas, feedback? Nobody? Criticism? Still shocked. Documentary one.
One criticism.
Darf ich die Frage auf Deutsch stellen, weil das ein bisschen ausführlicher?
You can translate for me.
Ja,
I will translate for him. So speak loud and slow.
Es ist eine Frage eher so ein bisschen eine philosophische Frage. Es sind so viele Bilder, die da genommen werden. Also ich habe irgendwas gehört von Billionen von Informationen aus dem Internet, die dann da verarbeitet werden mit AI. Ja? Und wo ist denn dann da so der Rückfluss zu den Leuten, die das sozusagen zur Verfügung gestellt haben? Also sozusagen zur Menschheit. Wo ist denn da der finanzielle Rückfluss? Gibt es den? Oder ist das überhaupt im Kopf drin? Oder wird das irgendwann mal so sein? Oder versteht ein bisschen die Frage, was ich meine? Weil man nimmt zwar viel, aber was gibt man denn eigentlich zurück? Das ist so ein bisschen...
Also es geht um den philosophischen Aspekt, was man nimmt.
Wo ist denn da das? Geht da immer nur so ums Geld, ne?
Entschuldigung, also es geht eben nicht um Urheberrechte, sondern es geht wirklich um...
Ja, so ein bisschen um Urheberrechte. Also die sind ja so, das ist alles so eine graue Zone, habe ich jetzt so mitbekommen, und wo man, das darf man nicht. Ne? Das waren so jetzt die vorherigen Pitches, und das ist so eine Grauzone. Und wo ist aber da, wem muss man jetzt was zahlen? Das ist jetzt klar, dass der bekommt Geld dafür, und der andere, dem haben wir es genommen und dem geben wir es nicht.
Well, is it fine if I answer in English? All right.
Can you repeat the question, maybe shortly?
Yes.
Like summary.
The summary. Okay. So it's about I'll make it on the example of OpenAI. So OpenAI used as a research project a lot of resources that are specific for the use for research. So if you are a research project, you can use a lot of also urheberrechtlich geschütztes, so licensed material for your projects, and it's everything all right. But then OpenAI involved, and they got a company, they are producing money. So now they have the big problem, they used licensed stuff. And there is more or less a little bit the philosophic question if there is a return to the people that contributed, willingly or not willingly, to this big AI model that now produces a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot of images. And so then my first, is it?
That's correctly translated. Thank you.
So then is my first answer, and that might not be the final answer, the best answer, but I think then it's very okay that everything that's produced out of the AI is publicly available for everybody, and that there are no rights that you can claim on this content that drops out. So if someone produces something cool, you can take it and claim it as yours, or as an AI's, and you can use it. So more or less, yeah, it's publicly available at the end. So more or less
that is
philosophically answered.
That is also where the legal battles are leaning. So precedents now across the world is that you cannot copyright things you generate, just so we know.
So this is one reason why I celebrate the release of Stable Diffusion into the open source, because we know the data was scraped for academic purposes. I think it was 400 million images that were trained into that specific AI model. And we can look at these images. We know who created them, where they are. So that's one step better, I think, ethically, from OpenAI or closed source image generation providers. I also agree, I think any image that is created with a pure text prompt is probably going to be in the public domain, because it's not enough, I'm missing the German term, but like creative input to make you own that resulting image. Of course, that's a problem for my company, because we're trying to, of course, have copyright of the resulting films, which is one reason, but by far not the only reason, control being another one, why we input so much more than just text. You know, there's a team of artists working on stuff. We have image inputs. We train our own models on licensed material.
But you also have scripts, sound. Yes. I mean, there's a lot of layers to a film.
Exactly. So that's what we're doing to protect our own creativity, of course, and our own input. Ideally, I do hope we have some actual legislation in the future, because right now I think the courts are flailing and there's a lot of misinformation going around saying this is completely stolen. No, in fact, we have in Germany explicit legislation, Urheberrechtsgesetz paragraph 44b,
yes.
Which allows the training of AI models based on copyrighted material. Period. There's no legislation on the use of that resulting material, so we desperately need to keep this conversation going quickly.
Maybe just from a more philosophical standpoint, the way I see these models, whether it be images or video, is almost like looking at a visual collective consciousness of human visual memory. And so if you think about it like that, it's more like you're looking into a mirror of what we created as a humankind. And once you start thinking about it as a mirror, it starts becoming less of an agent of its own expression. It's sort of more, how do you want to look into the mirror? And what do you want to use that reflection for? That becomes the underlying question you have to ask yourself.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm afraid we have to stop here right now because we're end of time, but this was one of the magic moments that you don't expect, with a question that I absolutely didn't expect at this point, and with
great question
I didn't assume at this moment. So before Professor Sylvia Rothe will present us the wrap-up, the closing keynote here in this room in 15 minutes, we have a very short break for you to step out and directly come back, or are they allowed to stay in the room? I'm not sure. So thank you all. A big applause. Give a big hand to all our guests. Thank you so much.